In a world full of noise, endless scrolling, racing thoughts, and restless nights, peace is no longer a luxury. It is something we all need. But true peace doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. Tonight, allow yourself to slow down, to breathe, to listen. These 20 Buddhist stories have been passed down for centuries, not just as lessons, but as gentle lights to guide the heart back home. Each one holds a quiet truth, a truth that speaks not to the mind, but to the soul. So find a comfortable place, close your eyes if you wish. Let your body relax and your thoughts drift away. Let the wisdom of the Buddha carry you into stillness, into peace and into rest. We begin with the first story, The Empty Boat. A long time ago, in a quiet place near the mountains, a young monk lived in a small temple. Every morning, before the sun came up, he walked to a calm lake nearby. This was his favorite place. The water was still. The birds were singing softly. Everything felt peaceful. He would sit by the water, close his eyes, and breathe slowly. He liked to meditate here, where no one could bother him. One morning, as he was sitting quietly with his eyes closed, something strange happened. He felt something hit him. He opened his eyes quickly and saw a small wooden boat had bumped into him. He felt angry. Who would do this? He thought. Why would someone ruin my quiet time? He stood up, ready to shout at the person in the boat. But when he looked inside, there was no one. The boat was empty. It had just floated across the lake by the wind. In that moment, something changed inside him. He suddenly understood. It was not the boat that made him angry. It was his own thoughts. There was no one to blame. The boat was empty. The anger came from inside him, not from outside. From that day on, whenever something upset him, he would remind himself, the boat is empty. He stopped blaming others. He stopped getting angry so easily. He realized that peace does not come from controlling the world. It comes from calming your own heart. So now, if someone says something unkind or life feels unfair, try to remember this story. Take a deep breath and say to yourself, the boat is empty. Let it go. Be still, like the lake, and feel the peace inside you. Story 2. The Farmer's Luck. Once, there was an old farmer who lived in a small village. He only had one horse, but he used it to plow his field and carry heavy loads. One day, the horse ran away. All the neighbors came and said, "Oh no, what bad luck!" But the farmer just smiled and said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." A few days later, the horse came back, and with it were 3 wild horses. Now the farmer had 4 horses. The neighbors came again and said, "Wow, what good luck!" But the farmer only said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." Later, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, but he fell and broke his leg. The neighbors came and said, "How terrible! What bad luck!" The farmer replied, "Maybe yes, maybe no." A week later, soldiers came to the village. They were taking all the young men to fight in a war. But because the farmer's son had a broken leg, he was left behind. The neighbors said, "You are so lucky your son didn't go to war." And once again the farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." The lesson. We often judge things too quickly. We call something good or bad without seeing the whole story. But life is full of surprises. What looks like a problem today may become a blessing tomorrow. And what seems lucky today may bring challenges later. True peace comes when we stop judging every moment. We learn to trust the flow of life. So next time something unexpected happens, take a deep breath, and gently say to yourself, maybe yes, maybe no. Then smile and keep going. Story 3. The Cup of Tea. A wise Buddhist master once received a visitor. The visitor was a proud man, full of knowledge. He had read many books and studied many religions. He came to the master and said, I want to learn the truth of Buddhism. Teach me everything you know. The master smiled kindly and said nothing. Instead, he began to prepare tea. He brought out 2 cups and a steaming pot of tea. Slowly, he poured tea into the man's cup. The cup filled up, but the master kept pouring. The tea spilled over the edge, onto the table, and down to the floor. The visitor quickly said, Stop! The cup is full. No more can go in. The master paused and looked at him. Then he said softly, You are like this cup. So full of your own ideas, there's no room for anything new. To learn, you must first empty your cup. The lesson? We often come to life with a full mind, full of beliefs, opinions, and judgments. But true wisdom cannot enter a mind that already believes it knows everything. To grow, to heal, to find peace, we must become empty like the cup, open, quiet, ready to receive. So next time you feel the need to be right, or when life offers a new experience, pause, breathe, and remember, empty your cup. Let go of what you think you know, and make space for peace to enter. Story 4. Letting Go of the Mud. 2 Buddhist monks were walking together on a long journey. It had just rained, and the roads were muddy. Soon they reached a small village where they saw a young woman standing near the edge of the road. She was dressed in fine clothes and couldn't cross because the road was too muddy. She looked worried. Without saying a word, the older monk gently picked her up and carried her across the mud. He then put her down safely and continued walking. The younger monk followed, but he looked upset. After many miles, he finally spoke. "Why did you carry that woman? We monks are not supposed to touch women." The older monk looked at him calmly and replied, "I set her down hours ago. But it seems you're still carrying her. The lesson? We often carry things long after they're over. Old arguments, past mistakes, words that hurt us. But holding on only makes our journey heavier." The older monk had already let go. The younger one carried the moment in his mind, and it made him suffer. Peace comes when we learn to let go, to forgive, to stop carrying what no longer needs to be held. So ask yourself, what am I still carrying? Then breathe deeply and set it down. Story 5. The Moon Cannot Be Stolen. There was once a Zen master who lived in a simple hut on the side of a mountain. He owned almost nothing, just a robe, a bowl, and the peaceful silence of nature. One evening, as the master returned to his hut, he found a thief inside. The thief was surprised to see the monk, but the monk didn't get angry. Instead, he looked around and said kindly, "You've come a long way to visit me. You shouldn't go back empty-handed." He took off his robe and gently handed it to the thief. "Take this," he said. "It's all I have." The thief didn't know what to say. He took the robe and left quietly. Later that night, the master sat outside looking up at the sky. The moon was full and bright. He whispered to himself, "Poor man. I wish I could have given him this beautiful moon." The lesson? When you have nothing to protect, you have nothing to fear. True freedom comes not from owning things, but from letting go. The thief could take the robe, but he could not steal the moon. He could not steal the master's peace, his kindness, or his joy. What is inside us is more powerful than anything we own. When you are at peace within, no one can take that away. So if you lose something, or if someone treats you unfairly, smile softly. And remember, they cannot steal the moon. Story 6. The Sound of One Hand. A young student once came to a Zen master. He bowed respectfully and asked, "Master, I want to understand true wisdom. Please teach me." The master nodded and said, "Good. But before we begin, I have a question for you." The student smiled, ready to answer. The master leaned in and asked, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" The student was confused. He tried to think of an answer. He clapped with both hands, then tried with one, but there was no sound. The question made no sense. He went away and spent days thinking. He asked others, he read books, he sat in silence, but nothing helped. Finally, he returned to the master and said, "I don't know the answer." The master smiled gently. "Good," he said, "now your mind is quiet. This is the first step toward understanding." The lesson? Not all questions are meant to be answered with words. Some are meant to open the mind and silence it at the same time. We often look for answers too quickly. We want to explain everything, fix everything, know everything. But true peace comes not from knowing, but from being still. When the mind lets go of the need to understand, it begins to rest. So, when a thought keeps spinning in your head, or life feels confusing, don't fight it, just breathe and listen to the silence within. Sometimes the greatest wisdom sounds like nothing at all. Story 7. The Two Arrows. One day, the Buddha was sitting with his disciples when he asked them a question. If a person is shot with an arrow, is it painful? The disciples replied, "Yes, Master, it is." Then the Buddha asked, "If that same person is shot with a second arrow in the same spot, is it even more painful?" The disciples nodded, "Yes, of course." The Buddha then said, "In life, we cannot always stop the first arrow. Pain happens, people get hurt, we face loss, illness, or failure. That is the first arrow. But the second arrow is our own reaction, our anger, our fear, our blame, our guilt. That arrow we shoot ourselves. And that is what causes the deepest suffering." The lesson? We all experience pain. It's a part of life. But how we react to that pain makes the difference. When we hold on to anger, when we replay the moment again and again, when we blame ourselves or others, we are shooting ourselves with a second arrow. The first arrow is life, the second is our choice. So the next time something hurts, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, do I really need to shoot a second arrow? Let go. Let the pain pass through like a breeze through an open window, and keep walking in peace. Story 8. The King and the Wise Man. A powerful king once asked his ministers to find him a message that would help him stay calm in every situation, whether happy or sad. He said, "I want something short. Just a few words. Something I can carry with me at all times." The ministers asked the wise men of the kingdom. After much thought, one wise man gave the king a small scroll. On it were 4 simple words. "This too shall pass." The king was confused, but the wise man smiled and said, "Read it when you are angry. Read it when you are afraid. Read it when you are proud. Read it when you are sad." So, the king kept the scroll with him. One day, he lost a great battle, His soldiers were tired. His kingdom was in danger. He felt hopeless. Then he remembered the scroll. He opened it and read, "This too shall pass." And his heart became calm. Another time, he won a great victory. People cheered. He felt powerful and proud. He opened the scroll again. "This too shall pass." And his heart became still. The lesson? Nothing lasts forever. Not the hard times, not the good times, not joy, not pain. Everything comes and goes like waves in the ocean. When you remember this, you stop clinging. You stop fearing change. You start living with peace. So in moments of stress or pride or sadness, gently whisper to yourself, "This too shall pass." And let that truth bring you peace. Story 9. The Bell and the Mind. A young monk once came to his teacher and said, "Master, my mind is noisy. I cannot concentrate when I meditate. Thoughts keep coming and I feel frustrated." The master said nothing. Instead, he handed the monk a small bell. "Ring this bell," the master said, "and listen to the sound until it fades away." The monk rang the bell. He listened closely. The sound was clear, then soft, then softer, and finally silence. The master asked, "Were you thinking while the bell was ringing?" The monk smiled. "No, master, I was just listening." The master nodded. "That is how you train the mind, gently, with focus, not by fighting thoughts, but by listening deeply, like you listened to the bell." The lesson? The mind is not your enemy. It doesn't need to be silenced with force. It needs your attention. Just as a bell becomes quiet when its sound fades, your thoughts become quiet when you stop chasing them. When you listen without judgment, when you observe without holding, the mind settles on its own. So the next time your thoughts feel loud or wild, don't fight them. Just breathe and listen, like you're listening to a bell. Softly, gently, and peace will follow. Story 10. The Overflowing Bowl of Rice. A hungry traveller once arrived at a monastery. He was tired, weak, and had not eaten for 2 days. A kind monk saw him and invited him in. He brought a warm bowl of rice and set it before him. But the traveller, thinking it wasn't enough, became angry. He shouted, "Is this all you're giving me? I haven't eaten in days." Without a word, the monk smiled and walked away. He returned a few minutes later with a larger bowl. Then, without emptying the first one, he poured more rice into it. The hot rice spilled over the sides and onto the floor. The traveller pulled back and said, "Stop! The bowl is already full. You're wasting it." The monk looked at him calmly and said, "So is your heart. When you are full of anger, nothing new can enter. Even kindness spills out." The lesson? When we are full of frustration, blame, or pride, we leave no space for peace, kindness, or healing. Like a bowl already filled to the top, nothing more can be added. To receive, we must first empty. Let go of what fills your heart with heaviness. Let go of the tight grip of expectations. Only then can peace enter. Only then can love be received. So when you feel like something is missing, don't just ask for more. First, look inside and gently empty your bowl. Story 11. The Mirror of the Mind. Long ago, a student traveled across mountains and rivers to reach a great Buddhist master. When he arrived, he bowed deeply and said, "Master, I've studied many texts, meditated for years, and followed every rule. But still, I don't feel peace. My mind is full of thoughts. I feel lost. What am I doing wrong?" The master looked at him kindly and said, "Come with me." He led the student to a quiet pond in the forest. The water was perfectly still like glass. The master pointed to it and said, "Look into the water. What do you see?" The student replied, "I see my reflection. My face, the trees, the sky above." The master then picked up a stick and stirred the water. The surface broke, ripples spread, the image disappeared. "And now?" the master asked. The student said, "Now I see nothing. The water is moving." The master placed the stick aside and said, "That pond is like your mind. When it is still, it reflects truth. But when it is stirred with thoughts, fears, and worries, you see only distortion. The sky is still there. Your true self is still there. But the movement hides it." The student sat in silence. He realized he had been trying too hard, forcing, chasing, thinking. But peace is not something to chase. It comes when we stop stirring the water. The lesson: your mind is like a mirror. When it's calm, it reflects life clearly. When it's full of noise, we mistake the ripples for reality. In our busy world, we often think peace is something we must earn or achieve. But peace is already within you. It's just hidden by movement. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to understand everything. You simply have to stop stirring. Let your thoughts settle like leaves falling in autumn. Let your breath guide you. Let stillness return. And in that stillness, you will see who you truly are. Story 12. The Bamboo and the Storm. There was once a young monk who often struggled with emotions. When people were kind to him, he felt happy. But when someone spoke harshly, he would feel angry for hours. If things went well, he smiled. But when they didn't go as planned, he became frustrated, lost in thought. One day, he asked his master, "Why do I feel pulled in every direction? I try to stay calm, but my emotions take over. How can I stay balanced?" The master smiled and said, "Come, walk with me." They walked through a quiet forest until they reached a small clearing. There, tall bamboo trees swayed in the wind. The master pointed to them and said, "Look at these trees. Watch how they move." The wind began to blow harder. The bamboo bent almost to the ground, but it did not break. When the wind passed, the bamboo returned to standing tall. "Now look at that old tree over there," the master said, pointing to a stiff oak with thick branches. Suddenly, a strong gust snapped one of the branches. It fell to the ground. The master turned to the young monk and said, "Do you see? The bamboo bends, and so it survives. The oak resists and it breaks. The lesson? In life, storms will come. Difficult people, unfair moments, sudden changes. You cannot stop the wind from blowing, but you can choose how you respond. If you resist every challenge with anger, pride, or fear, you may snap like the oak. But if you remain soft and flexible, like the bamboo, you will bend and rise again. Bamboo is strong not because it fights the wind, but because it flows with it. Peace does not mean nothing happens. It means you remain steady no matter what happens. So the next time something upsets you, remember, you don't need to break. You can bend, take a breath, stay soft, stay grounded. And like the bamboo, you will find strength in stillness. Story 13. The Candle in the Cave. In a quiet valley, far from cities and noise, there was an old cave hidden behind a waterfall. This cave was known only to a few monks who lived nearby. They believed it held the perfect silence, a silence so deep even the loudest thoughts would fade. One day, a young monk asked the abbot for guidance. He said, "Master, I meditate every day. I follow the rules, I speak little, but my thoughts, they never stop. I sit in silence, but inside I feel restless." The master looked at him gently and replied, "Come with me. There's something I want you to see." They walked for many hours through the forest, past rivers, and finally reached the waterfall. Behind it, they stepped into the dark cave. It was cold and silent. The only sound was the dripping of water echoing through the space. The master sat down on the stone floor and pulled out a small candle and a match. He lit the candle. A soft golden flame filled the darkness. The young monk stared at the flame. It flickered gently but remained steady. The master said nothing for a long time. Then finally he whispered, "This cave is your mind. The darkness is your confusion. The coldness is your fear. And this small flame is your awareness." The monk listened closely. When your mind feels full of shadows, when your thoughts seem endless, you don't need to fight them. You only need to light the flame. The young monk asked softly, "But master, how do I light it?" The old man smiled. "With stillness, with breath, with presence. You don't chase the darkness out. You bring in light." They sat together in silence. Minutes passed, then an hour. The young monk's thoughts slowly softened. He stopped thinking about his questions, about his practice, about trying to be better. He just sat and breathed and watched the candle. And for the first time in many years, he felt peace. The lesson: we often try to fight the darkness in our minds. We struggle with thoughts, fears, regrets, and worries. We try to push them away, hide from them, or silence them with noise. But the truth is, darkness cannot survive in the presence of light. When you bring awareness, calm, kind awareness, into your inner world, everything begins to change. Not by force, but by presence. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to win over your mind. You only need to sit and light the candle. So tonight, if your thoughts are noisy, if your heart feels heavy, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine a small flame in the center of your chest. It flickers gently, it warms you, it lights the cave, and slowly, everything inside you becomes quiet, because the candle is enough. Story 14. The Mountain Path. There was once a young man who lived at the base of a great mountain. Every day, he looked up at its snow-covered peak and dreamed of reaching the top. He had heard many things about it, that the view was beyond words, that the air was so pure it could heal your heart, that the silence was unlike anything on earth. So one morning, with hope in his heart, he began to climb. At first, the journey felt exciting. The path was clear, the air was fresh, and birds sang in the trees. He smiled as he walked, full of energy. But after a while, the road became steep. The sun grew hotter. His legs began to ache, and small stones pressed into his feet. He started to feel doubt. Maybe I'm not strong enough, he thought. Maybe I'll never make it. Still, he kept walking. He met other travelers, some climbing, some sitting, some turning back. One old man sat beneath a tree and said, "You can reach the top, but don't rush. The mountain will teach you as you walk." The young man didn't understand at first, but as the journey continued, he began to notice things. He noticed how the wind changed with each step, how the silence in the trees was different at every height, how sometimes just stopping to breathe made the path feel easier. At one point, a storm rolled in, the rain poured, thunder shook the sky. He found shelter under a rock and waited. He could have turned back, but he didn't. He waited, and the storm passed. When the sun returned, everything looked new, brighter, cleaner. He realized something important that day. The storm doesn't last. And I don't have to fight it. I just have to keep going. Finally, after many days, he reached the top. But what he saw wasn't what he expected. There was no cheering, no music, no voice saying, "You've made it!" Only the sound of the wind, only wide, endless sky and peace, deep, gentle peace. He sat down, closed his eyes, and smiled, because he understood now. The goal wasn't the peak, it was the journey, each step, each moment, each breath. The top wasn't a reward, it was a reflection. A mirror showing him that the peace he was looking for had always been walking beside him, in the wind, in the silence, in his breath. The lesson? Life is like a mountain path. We look up and think, when I reach that goal, I'll finally be happy. When I fix this, or get that, I'll be at peace. But true peace doesn't wait at the top. It's found in every step, in patience, in quiet observation, in not giving up when the road becomes steep, and in resting without shame when you feel tired. So if you're walking your own mountain path tonight, through grief or stress or change, pause. Place your hand over your heart. Feel it beating. That is your rhythm, that is your pace. You're not late, you're not lost, you are climbing, and that is enough. Just keep walking, and the mountain will teach you. Story 15. The Broken Bowl. In a peaceful monastery high in the mountains, there lived an old monk known for his silence. He rarely spoke. He rarely left the temple. But people said he carried a kind of peace that could be felt even before he entered a room. One day, a younger monk was sweeping the courtyard. He was in a rush, trying to do everything quickly, to be useful, to be seen. He didn't notice the bowl behind him, an old handmade clay bowl used by the elder monk for many years. With one quick step backward, the younger monk heard a crack. He turned around and saw the bowl broken in two. His face turned pale. "Oh no," he whispered, "I've ruined it." He picked up the broken pieces, his hands shaking. How could he fix it? How would he explain? He ran to the elder monk, bowed deeply, and held out the pieces. "I'm sorry, master," he said. "I broke your bowl." The elder monk looked at the pieces in silence. Then he looked into the young monk's eyes and said softly, "Good." The young monk blinked, confused. "Good?" he asked. The elder took the pieces in his hands. He examined them gently, like they were something sacred. Then he said, "Now it can be made into something even more beautiful." Over the next few days, the elder monk gathered golden powder and mixed it with resin. He slowly, carefully began to repair the bowl, not by hiding the cracks, but by filling them with gold. When it was finished, the bowl was more beautiful than before. The golden lines shimmered in the light, tracing the shape of the cracks like rivers on a map. The younger monk stared at it in wonder. The old monk smiled and said, "This is kintsugi. In Japan it means golden joinery. It is the art of mending broken things with care and making their scars part of their beauty. The lesson? You will break, sometimes quietly, sometimes painfully. A moment in life will split you open, a loss, a mistake, a failure. You may feel ruined, but you are not meant to stay broken. You are meant to be mended, not by hiding your scars, but by honoring them. Healing is not about becoming what you were. It's about becoming more. wiser, softer, more human, more whole. So, if your heart feels cracked tonight, if something in your life feels broken, don't hide it, sit with it, hold it gently. And when you're ready, begin to fill those cracks with gold. Your pain is not your shame, it is your path. And one day, when the light hits your scars just right, you will shine in a way you never imagined. Because broken things, when healed with love, become art. Story 16. The Empty Room. There was once a wealthy man who owned many things. His home was filled with beautiful furniture, rare art, and shining decorations from distant lands. But even with all his riches, he felt unhappy. He couldn't sleep well. His mind was always racing about money, about business, about the future. No matter how much he bought, it never felt like enough. One day, he heard that a famous monk was passing through the nearby forest. The man decided to visit him. He thought, maybe he can teach me how to feel at peace. When he arrived, the monk welcomed him with a bow. He offered him tea, served in a small chipped cup. The man looked around and was surprised. The monk's hut was almost empty. No furniture, no decorations, just a cushion, a shelf of a few books, and a single candle. The man asked, "Master, where is your furniture? Your things? Don't you feel lonely in this empty room?" The monk smiled gently and replied, "Where are your things?" The man laughed. "I didn't bring them. I'm only visiting." The monk nodded. "So am I." The man stared at him, confused. The monk continued, "We are all visitors in this life. Nothing we own stays with us. Not our homes, not our money, not even this body. So why carry so much?" The man fell silent. He looked around again. The quiet room now felt peaceful. Not empty, but free. He stayed longer than he expected. They sat in silence for hours. No noise, no rush, just tea, breath, and presence. When it was time to leave, the man bowed deeply and said, "I came here looking for peace. I thought I would find it by adding something new to my life. But now I see, peace comes when we let go." The monk smiled. "Exactly. An empty room can hold the whole sky." The lesson. We often fill our lives with more stuff, more noise, more goals. But true peace is not found in adding. It is found in subtracting. When the room of your life is cluttered with worries, attachments, and endless desires, there is no space for calm to enter. But when you clear the space, when you release what no longer serves you, you create room for stillness, for breath, for joy. You don't need to escape the world. You just need to empty the room. In your home, in your schedule, in your mind. So, take a moment now, close your eyes, and imagine letting go of one thing. Just one. A thought, a burden, a fear. Let it leave the room. And feel the space it leaves behind. That space, that silence, is where peace lives. Story 17. The Monk and the Scorpion. One morning, a monk was meditating by a quiet river. The sky was soft with morning light. Birds sang in the distance. The water flowed gently beside him. Suddenly, he noticed something struggling near the river's edge. He got closer and saw a small scorpion caught between some rocks. It was barely above the water, fighting to stay alive, its tiny legs slipping. Without hesitation, the monk reached down and gently picked it up. But as he lifted it, the scorpion stung his hand. The pain shot through his fingers, his hand reflexively jerked, and the scorpion fell back into the water. The monk didn't move away. He calmly reached down again. This time, he was slower, more careful, but the scorpion stung him again. Another monk who had been watching from across the river called out, "Why do you keep trying to save that creature? Don't you see it keeps stinging you?" The monk looked up and said softly, "Because it is in the scorpion's nature to sting, but it is in my nature to help." The lesson? Many times in life, people will react with fear, anger, or pain, even when you show kindness. Sometimes they hurt others not because they are bad, but because they are wounded. Like the scorpion, they don't yet know another way. But you can choose your response. You don't have to become like them. You don't have to harden your heart. You can keep your nature, your kindness, your peace, your love. Helping someone doesn't always mean they will thank you. Being calm doesn't mean others will be. But your peace is your strength. It's what separates you from the chaos. So, when the world stings, when someone's words or actions cause you pain, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, do I want to react from their nature or from mine? Because what you choose in that moment is who you are becoming. And every act of peace, every gentle breath, every time you stay soft in a hard world, you help heal not just yourself, but the world around you. Story 18. The Silent Temple. There was once a traveler who had spent many years searching for wisdom. He had crossed deserts, climbed high mountains, read countless scriptures, and sat with many teachers. But still, something inside him felt unsettled, like a gentle ache that wouldn't go away. He wanted to feel peace, real peace, the kind that stayed even when life was hard. One day, he heard of a small, hidden temple deep in the mountains. People said it was the quietest place on earth. They said monks there had lived in silence for decades, and that something powerful lived in the stillness. So the traveler packed lightly and began the long journey. He walked for days through thick forests, crossed rivers, and climbed steep paths. Finally, he reached the gates of the temple. They were plain, no gold, no carvings, just old wood and stone. He stepped inside. Everything was silent, not quiet, silent. No voices, no bells, no music, just the sound of his own breath. He saw monks walking slowly, carefully, their eyes soft and peaceful. He approached one and bowed. The monk bowed back but said nothing. The traveler whispered, "I've come seeking wisdom. I've traveled far. I've read many books, but I still don't feel peace. Can someone here teach me?" The monk nodded slowly and motioned for him to follow. They walked through the temple, past old walls covered in moss, through sunlit gardens where butterflies floated between stones, into a simple room with a wooden floor and a single mat. The monk gestured for the traveler to sit. Then he did something unexpected. He left. No teacher arrived, no lesson began, no words were spoken, just silence. The traveler waited. 1 hour passed, then another. His legs began to ache. His thoughts became louder. Why is no one coming? What am I supposed to do? Is this part of the teaching? Still, nothing. Eventually, he lay down on the floor and stared at the wooden ceiling. His thoughts spun in circles, memories, worries, regrets, dreams, but slowly, something began to happen. His thoughts grew tired. The room stayed still, and the stillness began to seep into him. Not suddenly, like a switch, but softly, like fog rolling over a valley. He noticed the sound of the wind outside. He noticed the light on the floor, changing as the sun moved. He noticed the silence, not as empty, but full of presence, full of space, full of something he had never felt before. The next day, he remained in the room. No one came, but he didn't feel forgotten. He felt held by the silence, by the space, by something deeper than words. By the third day, he wept, not from sadness, but from the stillness finally reaching the place inside him that had been aching all these years. He realized something. He had been looking for peace in ideas, but peace lives in presence. He had been trying to understand, but peace begins where the mind ends. On the fourth day, the monk returned. He looked at the traveller's eyes, now calm, now clear. The monk smiled and said his first words. "Now you are ready to listen." The lesson? We search so hard for answers. We run from one thing to the next, trying to fill the quiet space inside with words, noise, goals, distractions. But peace does not speak loudly. It whispers, and it waits. It lives in the space between thoughts, in the pauses between breaths, in the moments we stop trying to be somewhere else. True peace cannot be taught with words. It is felt in the silence you usually run from. It is found in the moment you stop searching and simply sit with everything. So tonight, let the silence hold you. Let your thoughts slow. Let your body rest. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to fix anything right now. There is wisdom in the stillness, and it is already waiting for you. All you have to do is be here. Story 19. The Boat That Never Left the Shore. There was once a young man who lived near a great river. All his life, he had heard stories about the other side, a place of freedom, happiness, and peace. He was told that anyone who crossed the river would find the life they were looking for. But the current was strong and the river wide. To reach the other side, he would need a boat. So, one day, he decided to build one. He spent months gathering the best wood, carving each piece with care. He painted it with colors he loved and gave it a name, The Journey. Every day he came to the shore, polishing the boat, adjusting the sails, reinforcing the bottom. He worked hard. He wanted it to be perfect. Sometimes he sat inside and imagined the crossing. He dreamed of how peaceful it would be, the calm water, the soft sky, the arrival. But strangely, he never pushed the boat into the water. Each time he thought about leaving, a voice in his mind would whisper, "Not yet. It's not ready. What if it breaks? What if the other side isn't real?" So he waited and prepared and dreamed. Years passed. People came and went. Some took small boats. Some swam. Some returned, wet and smiling. Others did not return at all. But the man remained by the shore, with his perfect boat, still tied to the land, still afraid, still waiting. One evening, an old monk passed by and saw the man sitting beside his boat. He watched the man run his fingers along the polished wood, his eyes full of longing. The monk sat beside him and asked, "How long have you been here?" The man sighed, "Many years. I'm just waiting for the right time." The monk looked at the boat and said, "It is beautiful. But do you know something?" The man looked up. The boat was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to move. The journey doesn't begin when the boat is ready. It begins when you are. The man sat in silence. He looked at the river, the gentle current flowing endlessly toward the horizon. And for the first time, he untied the rope. The lesson? In life, many of us wait. We wait to be ready, to be perfect, to feel strong, to feel fearless. We build plans, we collect knowledge, we imagine the journey. But the truth is, the river is always flowing, and no boat is ever truly ready. What matters most is the courage to untie the rope, to begin to trust, to move forward, even when we don't know exactly what waits on the other side. Peace isn't found in endless preparation. It's found in letting go, in stepping in moving with life instead of waiting for it. So, if something inside you is calling tonight, a change, a dream, a deep truth, listen. You don't have to know what happens next. You only need to release the rope. And the current will carry you. You are ready. Story 20. The Last Breath of the Buddha. In the final days of his life, the Buddha knew his time on earth was coming to an end. He had walked thousands of miles, taught thousands of people, sat beneath trees, under stars, in silence and in crowds. He had guided kings and beggars, monks and mothers. He had spoken with kindness and clarity, never asking to be worshipped, only to be understood. And now, as he lay beneath two tall trees in the stillness of dusk, the leaves above him rustled gently in the warm air. His disciples gathered around him, tears in their eyes. They did not want him to go. One of them asked softly, "Master, when you are gone, who will guide us?" The Buddha opened his eyes, calm and clear, and said with love, "You must be your own light. The truth is not in me. It is not in a temple, or a statue, or a book. It is within you. All things will pass, even me, but the path will remain if you walk it with mindfulness, compassion, and peace." He closed his eyes again. His breathing slowed, and with a gentle smile, he exhaled his last breath, like a leaf falling into still water. The earth did not tremble, the sky did not cry, there was only silence and the feeling of great love. The lesson? We often look outside ourselves for guidance, for someone to follow, for someone to save us. But the deepest teacher is already within you. You have the same silence the Buddha carried, the same light, the same breath. You don't need to be perfect to walk the path. You only need to be present, to be kind, to return again and again to your breath, your heart, your truth. Even as the world changes, even when people leave, even when you feel lost, because you are not lost, you are here, and the path begins wherever your feet are now. So let this final story be your reminder. You are enough. You are the path. You are the light. And just like the Buddha, when your time comes to lie beneath the trees and release your last breath, may you do so with peace in your heart, knowing you lived with awareness, with love, and with courage. Now, rest. Let the teachings rest within you. Let your body be soft. Let your thoughts be light. The stories have been told, and you are ready for sleep. You are safe here. You are home. You've now heard 20 stories. Stories not just from ancient times, but from the timeless truth within your own heart. Each one a whisper from the Buddha. Each one a light on the path. Each one an invitation, not to become someone else, but to return to who you already are. Still, aware, whole, as you rest now, let these stories settle into the quiet spaces of your mind. You don't need to remember every word. You don't need to hold on to every lesson. Just feel the silence they leave behind, the soft hush of understanding, the gentle warmth of being held by truth. Breathe slowly. Feel your body resting against the earth, supported, safe and calm. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing more you need to do. No thought that needs chasing, no feeling that needs fixing. Let the river of life carry you now, effortlessly, like a leaf floating downstream. If a thought comes, let it pass. If a feeling rises, Smile at it like an old friend, then let it fade. This is your moment. This is your stillness. This is your peace. And even after the video ends, even after the sound fades, this stillness remains. Because it was never in the stories, it was never in the words, it was always in you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for walking the path, even if only in stillness tonight. May you sleep with ease. May you wake with clarity. And may you carry the light of these stories gently into the world. Good night, and peace be with you.